How's everyone doing? Sleepy? Hungry? Tired? Bored? Let's see if we can stimulate some senses here. Is anybody here a game developer? All right, we got one. Is anyone here an app developer? We got many more. Okay, this is great. This is great. So today I'm going to focus about how to optimize your game retention, but I think a lot of the data that you will be seeing here will help all game developers, will help a lot of app developers, will help a lot of advertisers on mobile. It doesn't matter whether you're an e-commerce company, whether you're a gaming company, you'll get a lot of insights from this and a lot of very valuable data. And I have to say thank you to Ronen, who helped to do a nice lead in, and I'm going to get you back in here. So first of all, who is AppsFlyer? Okay, you probably heard our name before in the presentation earlier, maybe in the industry, but we are the leading mobile advertising measurement platform. Okay, we do what we call attribution, which is knowing where your users are coming from, and we do in-app analytics so that you know what your users are doing within your app. So it doesn't matter whether it's a game or whether it's a e-commerce, a travel site, anything like that. Okay. We're also leading in the Asia region. We have offices in Beijing and Bangkok. We're opening in Seoul, in Tokyo, and of course we are going to be opening in India very soon. Slight plug if anyone's looking for a job. Yeah. So also when I talk about leading, the same way that AppsFlyer measures advertising across the industry, we are also being measured across the industry by our peers. So last month, a company, 3 different platforms, one called MixRank, Apptopia, and SourceDNA, they released findings about what they do is they basically can sample apps across the whole industry and tell you what SDKs are installed in them. All 3 of these platforms came to similar solution. Firstly, AppsFlyer is the most used mobile tracking SDK. Today we command just over 5% market share globally. So this is more than some of our competitors up here, as you can see. Secondly, we are the most retained mobile tracking solution globally, ranging between 81 and 85%. Now, as you know, that the subject of this presentation is about retention. So for you, it's also very important to notice that in order to grow, you need to get your retention correct. If you cannot retain your users, you're going to be in trouble because retention is the key to growth. So once again, here's a Candy Crush example. So basically, this is going to be a little tutorial for you, a little step back into what exactly is it that we do, okay, and why you need mobile advertising analytics. So as a platform, we help you to measure where your users are coming from. We're connected to over 1,000 media channels. It doesn't matter whether it's Facebook, Twitter, Google, SMS, email, TV, we can measure everything. And not only can we measure everything, we can measure what we call LTV, which is the lifetime value of these users. What are they doing? Are they registering an account in your app? Are they getting past level 3? Are they adding a product to cart? Are they checking out? You want to be able to measure everything, and you need a solution that can do that for you. And that's where AppsFlyer comes in. So enough plugging about AppsFlyer. Let's talk about performance index, and this is related to mobile gaming. We released a performance index last week about mobile gaming retention, and a lot of the data that you see here, I will share with you the link where you can go online, but I'm going to share with you some key highlights as well. Firstly, here we're looking at iOS retention. Now, iOS is Apple, for those of you who are not familiar with that. And retention is typically measured over the course of or 3 critical points. D1, which is day 1, D7, which is the 7th day, and D30, which is the 30th day. Here we see, so what we did here is, this is the average retention across the networks. We can see here that some networks like AppLovin, Vongol, Facebook show the highest retention percentages over these 3 periods. But then we see platforms, for example, like Playhaven, which makes a move towards when you start getting 1 month into the game, that they have very high retained users. With this slide, we wanted to highlight a very important segment in mobile advertising, which is video. When looking at retention data, we can see that video is dominating. Okay, video works better than social, video works better than in-app, and video works very, very, very good when you compare to non-video. So we see that retention over the same day periods, day 1, day 7, and day 30, in the video category is very strong. To sum it up, video is kicking ass. Here we're looking at another segment, which is in-app versus affiliates. Anyone familiar with in-app and affiliate names in this industry? Okay. So in-apps is basically categories, for example, like AppLift, which is putting advertising within the app itself. Okay, and affiliates is platforms that are basically going out and working with publishers and generating, reselling the advertising to them. Okay, we see that in-app networks perform almost 300% better than affiliates, and this is a very big gap. So the takeaway from this slide is that if you are actually targeting retention, you want to work with the in-app platforms. Here we're looking at Android, okay? Similar as we discussed before, we're looking at here the top 15 networks, top 15 Android networks. And we see that networks, for example, like AdColony, AppsFlyer, and Vongol are delivering the highest retention, along with Facebook. So if you want, why do we highlight these networks? Because if you're going to launch a campaign and you're going to do user acquisition, you're better starting with the ones that are known to perform well, and then start to expand across multiple channels. Okay, and before we talked about affiliates, it's not all doom and gloom for them, because affiliates is trumping incentivized traffic. Incentivized traffic is basically when you're rewarding a user to install your app. For example, you're giving them free credit, or you're giving them 5 gold coins or something like that. Okay, so we see that the gap increases over time. So once again, if you are looking at getting retained users, you will want to consider affiliate traffic. However, incentivized traffic does have its role within the industry, because they can drive a very high volume of users in a very short amount of time. Okay, are you guys ready for a surprise here? Okay, there is no surprise. Video, once again, is kicking ass on Android too. So we see that video performs around 25% better than social being platforms, for example, like Facebook, Twitter. And we're seeing that compared to in-app and affiliate, about 60 to 70% better. So what do you think would happen on a head-to-head basis? Any ideas? Android, which do you think has? Show of hands for people who think that Android has better retention. Show of hands for iOS. Okay, good. So iOS is definitely, when you talk about user retention, iOS tends to lead the way here. iOS has the ability, so in the industry, iOS users are probably more mature. Okay, they've had their smartphone for a longer period of time, and they're more discerning about the apps they're going to get installed. So they're more difficult to get. You will pay a higher price to acquire a user on iOS than you will on Android. But the value is that these users are going to stay with you longer. And the longer you keep the users inside your app, the better chance you have of monetizing them. If we look here at iOS and Android once again, for video, video in-app, and also for social, iOS still shows much better retention. So the signs are very clear here that video and iOS seem to be dominating. But it's not very bad, all doom and gloom for Android, as I mentioned before, because Android tends to retain users better for shorter periods of time, but then over time, iOS users will be more retained. So this is a power ranking that we release every quarter. This is very, very valuable information for you because these are the top networks, top 25 networks that we've ranked on our platform. Now remember, we have over 1,000 platforms that we work with. These are just the top 25. The power ranking is a measure of two functions. One is the ability to drive volume. Volume being the number of installs. And against quality. Quality being user retention, LTV, and engagement. And as you can see here, there's a lot of familiar names, for example, like Facebook, Chartboost, and of course, some new entrants into our platform, for example, like Applift and Mail.ru. This is the power ranking for Android. Okay, once again, Facebook and Chartboost are dominating. But we're also seeing that there's an emergence of Chinese platforms, for example, like Mobvista and Cheetah Mobile, who are actually have ability to generate very high quality of traffic. So the key takeaways from here, number one, big data is king. So it's very important to know that when you're working with these different channels, that the more data that they're going to have on the users, the better they're going to be able to target. Video is perfect for gaming advertising. Okay, there's a very, very strong case for that. It's not only for us. Today, Facebook, for example, does 4 billion videos per day. So video is growing on mobile device. And of course, Facebook is power, but there's 999 other channels out there for you to use. So you need to look at what's right for you. There is no recipe for delivering a successful mobile campaign. So in my presentations, I always like to talk about some best practices. So here I want to share with you a few. Tip 1, easy come, easy go. It's very, very easy to buy users. Okay? It takes 1 minute for a user to install an app and about 5 seconds for them to delete it. So you need to get your retention right. Here's some metrics from gaming, which again, this is very specific to gaming. You look at day 1 retention, you want to be hitting over 30%. Day 7, you want to be around 15%. And day 30, you want to be around 7% retention. Again, these are just typical industry benchmarks. If you are outperforming these, you're in good shape. Tip number 2 is use notifications. Now, notifications is very important because every user is different. For example, if you are a new user to a game, you might want to get some free credit or an extra life so you can pass the first few levels. So so it's important that if you're going to send a notification to that user, you want to send a notification that's relevant to them. However, a hardcore user might have a different need. He might need a golden sword to defeat the big bad guy. And champion, these are the users that have actually finished your game. So when you release new levels, you want to target these guys. Tip number 3, build a community. It's very, very important within the industry to build around your friends. So have social logins, okay? The more you increase your retention, the better virality you're going to get. The better virality you're going to get, the higher your LTV is going to be. And the LTV means that the more valuable these users are, the more you can pay for them and buy better quality. Release updates. Again, it's very important that you release updates, but you don't abuse the user. And my last tip is reviews and ratings. Not enough can be said about how important it is to have good reviews and good ratings. So industry benchmarks show that a game with a 4-star rating can have 4% higher retention than a game with a 3-star rating. So it's very important to pay attention to your users, no matter what your app is. Because if you don't pay attention to them, they're not going to pay attention to you, and they will leave. Thank you.
Thanks, Ronen. Check. Thanks, Ronen, for that insights and excellent tips that will make us grow better, I guess, in all our apps that we do, right? Let's take a quick selfie and we'll move on to the next.